we do have a culture of accountability,
Sure.
but that it's our responsibility to take responsibility and to challenge best practice and so on, I suppose.
You suppose, because I don't think they said to challenge best practice. Usually, what they mean, yes, take responsibility, but
Yeah,
this is best practice.
yeah,
So it's kind of, yeah, you're free to say everything you want. And there's a few jobs that have been managers told me, oh, you have this different experience. Bring everything you can from your Italian experience.
yeah,
But then the next sentence is, oh, you didn't do this. This is best practice.
sure.
Or like, if you want me to bring my experience, you can't define policies as best practice. You need to define them as your perspective.
Yeah,
And it doesn't mean that, I don't have the answers to everything. It doesn't mean that Vincenzo knows everything and everything Vincenzo says is right, okay? But we need to have a chance to discuss things,
yeah,
and maybe I'm going to learn something as well, because I'm not in a position to learn if you're just tell me to parrot a few procedures
yeah,
or buzzwords.
yeah.
And
I suppose it's how much we trust practitioners on a frontline like sort of level, and
yeah, but you
how
see,
much
if,
we
if
trust
I
them
tell you,
because they're the ones working, face to face with
mm,
people, right? So they're the ones who
have the blame.
well, no, but they're the ones who also stand to learn
Yeah,
from what is working and what's not working rather than management.
yeah,
So the best practice almost stems from a lack of trust. So it's
yeah,
sort of going,
absolutely.
I don't
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't trust what you're doing. This is follow this and
yeah,
you'll be okay.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. It's just shows that going to university is pointless because they'll just tell you what the truth is,
yeah,
and it works against workers because obviously they have this. Oh, but you can do your own thing. If you need to lock the doors, they can't do. Oh yeah, but bring your experience. Because my experience is not locking the doors.
sure. Well, I imagine that's really difficult when you've got whole institutions which are based on locking the doors.
Yeah,
You can't suddenly like start working for an organization and go, actually, we'll leave the doors unlocked.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can't.
How do you begin to challenge that?
So that's a question that I've been asking myself for many
Yeah,
years. How do I think I had to overcome the shock in the
sure.
beginning of not being able to discuss this with anyone. Well, could discuss it with colleagues, but not with managers. Being evaluated as competent based on how much I believed in best practice,
Right.
which I completely disagreed with,
Yeah.
which is an ongoing issue, by the way.
Yeah.
And having to and yeah, what do you do? So I think the one thing that really gave me hope, as I said, was the fact that I found that a lot of people are not so committed to best practice as the establishment would want people to be. That a lot of people have doubts,
Sure.
and I find that there's actually really probably a vast majority of people that if they had the right information, they don't really agree with best practice at all.
Yeah.
So the potential is there. I think we need to start some kind of conversation, which is non-existent. Like we're doing this podcast, but nobody's really discussing these things.
Sure.
Even like politically, both all the main parties, the discussion is basically funding, not funding.
I agree. Yeah, the conversation isn't happening at a
Yeah,
political level, but it is happening in some, social entrepreneurs, like, setting up new social enterprises, trying to
yeah,
find different ways of working. It definitely is happening, but probably not on,
yeah. But you see
from the work that I've seen, like, there's been experiments which have gone on for a decade, and then inevitably they get sort of shut down through
yeah.
like the system. Eventually,
But this
yeah,
is this is another thing we'll talk about in one of the next episodes. But this is a British tendency of people that are critical of the system, starting from R.T. Lang, David Cooper, and others. That you try in the system, you think, oh, it doesn't work. We're going to try to move out of the system
yeah,
and create something different. That's destined to fail because society is a system.
sure,
There's no such thing as outside the system. If you reject the system, you're just behaving like a psychiatric hospital. You're saying, "No, these people are bad. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'll create this pretty, perfect system apart."
yeah,
And really, what we need to do is work inside services. I think that's the only way that there's going to be meaningful change that can't be shut down because
Sure.
it's spreading from within. And I've seen that this is possible, although it seems very intimidating, this concept, best practice, etc., that there's no way that you can discuss it. Actually, when you start having these conversations, if you really push for them, then since managers are human beings, I don't think that there's any evil person in the system.
Yeah.
Or there are maybe somebody who should do another job, but generally people do this job because they want to help. It's just they have this oppressive structure. But the human being behind the manager doesn't really agree with these things. And so there are breakthroughs, I think, that are possible.
Yeah.
So
That's inspiring.
that's inspiring. Yes. But no, what the system does
Yeah,
say.
so the system, for example, could say, what if we change the words?
Yeah. So that's the thing that I love. When they're cornered, they have no excuse.
Yeah.
There's nothing they can say because you just proved that best practice is just wrong. They'll say,
Sure.
oh, you know what, we're going to change things now, Vincenzo. So
Yeah.
we're really taking this on board. Now we're going to call it good practice.
Sure.
Yeah, now it's and everybody's we've solved the problem.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, or as you will see, risk assessment, we'll call them safety plans or something.
Yeah.
And say, okay, so what's changed now? Good practice I can disagree with. I can't think it's bad. No, it's still good.
Yeah, and you've seen this happen, have you?
Kind of a bit, because
Yeah.
usually you don't get them to this stage.
Sure.
In some cases, when they feel that you ask these questions, which I always ask, and in the room there's a feel that people agree with me, they'll say, oh, yeah, maybe we'll think about changing the terms.
Mm.
But changing the terms is not what we're interested in. We're interested in changing the substance of,
the structure
of what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're just interested that you can have different opinions. Now,
it's about more having like a bottom-up kind of like feedback mechanism rather than just being top-down.
Yeah, that people can discuss. Then, of course, there needs to be compromise. Of course, in the end, not everybody gets everything they want. So I might have a discussion, and I might find that in this discussion, people disagree with me on one issue.
Yeah.
And we just find a compromise that is something that works for people generally. But then I think the conversation continues, and I don't have a problem like adhering to rules that I disagree with, as long as there's a sense that I'm part of something. And I think that this is not, in the beginning, maybe I thought this was a problem that I had.
Yeah.
But then I think this is a problem that a lot of people feel they have.
Yeah.
So
I do think it's quite a limiting perspective, really, isn't it, to say best practice, because it's almost that it's saying that everybody fits within this neat little box that will work for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's redundant in that sense because humans have so many different like variables, will work and respond in so many different ways.
But you know what? The problem is when best practice clearly fails.
Yeah.
What they say is they put it on the level of responsibility. So they say, "Oh, don't worry, you did everything you could."
Yeah, accountability.
Because you did best practice, so we're fine. So even though this person died, we're all fine. Nobody's guilty. Think, well, if we all did what we had to do, then and the person died or a tragedy happened in any way, then it means that best practice doesn't work.
Yeah.
Then it means that the procedure was wrong. And that never strikes people. It's always, and even if you do something right, but it wasn't best practice, that's wrong because you should have done best practice. So it's just a self-referred concept. It's detached from the well-being of the people. It's the protection of a structure. So we need to wonder then, and you can think about probably social, like cultural, social issues in Britain. And I don't want to sound, I mean, I left Italy, so it's not as if I have this think Italy, everything's perfect in Italy. But
it's nearly the 29th of March.
I'm off very soon. Okay. Probably it's not the best historical period to bring new ideas from Italy, but
we welcome them.
No, but we can discuss why is it so culturally difficult to just say, well, maybe the system isn't perfect. Maybe it's not so best and fantastic, and maybe we can question it.
Yeah, I think that conversation is starting to happen. I think you might know
because we have a podcast. So but it's important, I think, to expand this conversation.
Sure.
what we want people that are listening to this that are interested
Yeah.
is to kind of write to us, give us your experiences,
Yeah.
tell us that you don't agree.
Yeah.
Can't disagree though.
What do you think?
This is the new best practice.
what do you think about best practice? And maybe we'll have a best practice episode part 2 at some point in the future, including all of your different opinions.
Yeah, I think this concept will come back over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I want to do as well is give you the details of our social media accounts so that you can follow us there.
So what are those?
So
on Instagram.
So Instagram is at APOS Podcast.
So it's APOS Podcast. So a place of safety podcast.
Yeah.
Twitter is the same.
Same. Yeah.
At APOS Podcast.
YouTube is just a place of safety ? Podcast. Question mark is very important, obviously.
If you Google that, you'll find it.
A place of safety. We didn't even say. I think a place of safety is the way usually psychiatric hospitals are identified.
Where did that term come from?
I don't know. Some clearly not from the idea that they create safety. Yeah. And then Patreon. Sure. So this is important for us because we're not paid millions by the system to do this. They're not keen on. So we're doing this for free, clearly, but we have costs. So every podcast has costs, and there's work that goes into doing this. So it's important for us.
Yeah, that goes into like hosting the podcast and
equipment
and everything and so on. And we believe it's really important to have a space for this open debate. Yeah. And we hope that you'll think the same. Yeah. And that you'll want to join in the conversation and that you'll appreciate the value of having this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to contribute, like if you want to give us £1 per episode or something like that, that would be really important to us. So if you go to Patreon, that's patreon.com/APOS Podcast again, and
you'll be able to find all the information.
You'll be able to find the information. But if you don't understand something, just send us an email again as apospodcast@gmail.com, and some of us will answer.
Yeah. And also write to us. Tell us what you thought about this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, what did you think about the subject matter?
Yeah, and then as you said, Matt, if then we have a lot of suggestions, we might do a second episode on best practice at some point.
Yeah. Are you an expert in this field? Would you like to come on the podcast as a guest? Talk to our listeners about the subject?
Tell us that it's not best practice what we said, so it doesn't count. Yeah. And then I want to say that Matt and I are working on this podcast, but we're trying to expand this
conversation.
This conversation and the team APOS podcast.
Yeah.
And so we're in conversations, and we might get other people involved as well.
Yeah.
But definitely.
It's very, very democratic.
It's very democratic. And maybe one day we'll have a debate between us saying that there are different views and somebody else saying no, there aren't different views, they're just my view, and then we can see. Wouldn't be a very long debate.
Yeah.
I would say, do you have anything else to say, Matt?
I don't think I do. That's been episode 1. Thanks for listening.
That's been episode 1. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.